Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
And as the saying goes, all good things come to those who wait, or something like that. Good morning to you. This is Giles Brown, live from the studios of TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain, with this Tuesday's truncated, or whatever you pronounce it, Viewpoint. I'm with you for the next hour. Apologies, or actually it's going to be 55 or 56 minutes or so, perhaps even less, of today's show. So apologies, but the traffic gods, because we're starting to go into that season where certain things break down, not my cars just for once, but the infrastructure had a bit of a wobbler this morning. I'm not the only one. And if you are stuck in traffic, you were trying to get down from the Guadalhorce this morning, I salute you. You probably went past me or whatever, but it was an absolute... I'm trying to find the appropriate words without saying rude words on the radio. So I am with you. Unfortunately, my guests are unable to make it in today because they were here on time. Unfortunately, I was not. Just one of those things. So I'm with you for the next 52 minutes. We'll throw the phone lines open if there is anything you want to talk about on Viewpoint today. I'm here and waiting for you. We'll look at some bits and pieces as we always do as well. National Service coming back. Good idea, bad idea since we last met. Of course, an election was called by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Nigel Farage is currently delivering a speech at Reform UK event. And so let me know what you want to talk about. The lines are open. As they say in tennis parlance, the ball is heading over your side of the net. If you want to get involved, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
2 hours to get down here this morning, but I'm glad I'm in the nice, cool, air-conditioned studio. Looking at your papers today, then, let's see what's making the front pages in the UK on this Tuesday, the 28th of May. The morning papers, then, they say the following. With now less than 6 weeks to go. No, that's not the right. Oh, okay, that's yesterday's papers. And as the saying goes, who needs yesterday's papers? Nobody in the world. Here we go. That's better. Looking at the July's general election dominates this morning's front pages. The Metro focuses on Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer's first speech on the campaign trail, in which he discussed how his working class upbringing informed his politics. The Labour's leaders dismissed Rishi Sunak's national service idea as teenage dad's army, says the Mirror. I reports Labour mayors are prepared to stand up to Sir Keir Starmer to pursue a better deal on housing, transport and council funding if he gets the keys to number 10. Meanwhile, the Mail has a report that suggests the party's tax plans on private schools would force nearly half of those students into the state system. But Labour has apparently secured the endorsement of a coalition of 120 business leaders. That's in the Times. Keeping on the election trail, the Telegraph looks at the Prime Minister's upcoming pledge to never impose tax on the state pension with a quadruple lock. Financial Times also goes with that story. The proposal would hand pensioners a £100 tax cut next year by raising their personal allowance. That's in the Express. Gold age pensioners is the Sun's play on words following the PM's pension boost announcement. Elsewhere, global horror at the Israeli airstrike on a camp for displaced people in Gaza makes up the Guardian's front page. And the Star has news on the backlash to a so-called full English pizza by Gordon Ramsay. For this Pineapple on it, we're stopping today's show. Looking at the top of the front pages, Gold Age pensioners is the Sun's play on words following Sunak's pension boost announcement. Rishi's election offer. Financial Times, Sunak leans on grey vote with £4.2 billion tax cut for pensioners, and also hell on earth UN refugee agency adds voice to outrage at deadly Israeli strike on Gaza. Daily Express, I'm on your side. PM pledges bumper pension rise. The Eye, Labour mayors warn Starmer we will fight for a better deal. The Mail, 4 intend to quit private school under Keir's tax. Major report finds state sector will be swamped if fees rise. The Times, City figures back Labour with call for new outlook, and also warning of civil unrest over EU border rules. The Guardian, global outrage after dozens killed on Israeli airstrike on Rafah camp. The Mirror, you can end Tory chaos, Starmer tells voters. The Daily Telegraph, PM, state pensions will never be taxed. The Metro, secure my rocky start in life, you can trust me, Labour leader insists. And finally, The Star, because the Daily Star runs with backlash to a so-called full English pizza made by Gordon Ramsay. You sick man, Ramsay. Beans do not go on pizza. Gordon is a moron. Angry Italians hate full English dish, and those, for better or worse, are your headlines. This Tuesday, the 28th of May.
Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Breaking news. Rachel Reeves says Labour is the party of business. She's speaking at an event in Derby. I'm delighted to say that I've been joined in the studio by one of my stalwart guests, Jamie Hamilton-Milan. Jamie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Giles.
Well, thanks for making it. You too were out there in the jungle that is the infrastructure that is, those post-apocalyptic worlds where the people struggle in or falling down. I was doing an impersonation this morning of Michael Douglas in Falling Down. When he sits in traffic in one of those LA type jams and then loses his proverbial.
Yeah, the infrastructure doesn't really work. One road in, one road out type thing.
So, are you well, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good.
You look well.
Thank you.
That's all right then.
It's a suntan for you.
It's the suntan for you. Yeah, presumably the sea's not cold enough for you now. It's too warm for you.
No, still go, but it's not as challenging as it should be.
Right then, since we last met, and if you want to get your viewpoint across on this or any subject, these are the numbers to get in contact.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right then, since my last viewpoint, we had the small matter of a general election being called. Rishi Sunak going to the polls on the 4th of July. Interesting, would you not say, Jamie?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, my sort of perspective has shifted so dramatically since various events over the last 4 years, but I don't tend to really watch a lot of the news anymore.
Right.
It just seems to me like it's kind of just nonsense. They don't really talk about, the big issues are at hand. And this is another one because, fundamentally, I don't think any of the issues that are really affecting your average person in the UK or anywhere else on planet Earth will be discussed in this election. And I find it more interesting to hear kind of perhaps insiders' perspectives onto why Rishi Sunak has decided to go at this particular point and call, was it July 4th?
July 4th, yeah.
Some kind of ironic statement to give us a vote on Independence Day as if it makes any difference. But yeah, it's, from what I've read, don't know whether or not it's gossip or hearsay, he doesn't want to be a wartime PM.
A wartime PM?
Yeah, that's the reason why he's decided to go.
Right.
So that's what I've heard, and that's what I would believe. He seems like a wet man anyway, and a bit of a puppet. But what I find more interesting about that statement is that surely if he was PM, he'd have a choice, right? To go to war or not. What I'm saying is that I don't think he has any power. I don't think any of them have any major power. I think there's already a decision being made to ramp up for some kind of conflict with some completely pointless and extremely dangerous and damaging conflict with Russia. But talking about citizen armies and stuff like that, and recruiting people. Like, what are we actually talking about here? Are you all completely psychotic and insane?
But you see, one of the things with this is, I mean, surely if we were going onto a war footing, then he would want to stay in power, because look at what happened with Thatcher and the Falklands. It revived her fortunes as they were flagging a bit in the early months of 82.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there's so much to unpack there, Giles. I mean, first of all, like, why would someone's political career, why would someone even use a war and the death of some innocent person or many innocent people just to revive a flagging, useless political career? That's one thing. Two, I think it's a big difference going to, a tiny island in the middle of nowhere and going against, the largest landmass on planet Earth, where, stacked full of nuclear weapons, completely trouncing, even with what are we at now? Trillions? How much money's gone into Ukraine now?
Yeah, we're talking trillions. I mean, could be.
So even with the might of a proxy war and the proxy investment from America, nothing's happening. So what the hell will Britain be able to do? Like nothing. They'll literally have no impact. But like sending like a 12-year-old schoolboy to, play professional rugby or something like that, it's a waste of time. The whole thing to me is, again, going back to what I was trying to say, the fact that he's even, like, that's his thought process means that it's already predestined. And Keir's not going to do anything different. On the big issues that we're talking, they all agree on the same thing. Ukraine's bad. We need to go to war. We need to give them more money. Let's not look after people in Britain. Let's not sort out the various issues that are happening in the UK. Let's just shovel money into the most corrupt state in Europe and just lose more money, or at least pay the arms and weapons manufacturers to produce more bombs that will have zero impact on the result of that particular war. Let's just keep doing that, and let's not work out where all that cash went during COVID, lockdown, PPE, quantitative easing. Let's not talk about that. That's completely irrelevant.
It's the ultimate dead cat. It's the ultimate dead cat.
Yeah, exactly. Let's divert attention to a proxy war that is. I mean, if we are to believe that there's a possibility of a nuclear war, even though I would say that Putin's probably a rational man, seems to be rational to me, certainly more intelligent than any of the other leaders that seem to be out there. But let's push him as far as we can, even more than we've gone, even further than we already have so far, to potentially have a nuclear war. Let's do that instead of sorting out the fact that no one can turn their heating on in the UK, infrastructure is completely screwed, NHS is a joke, education's a joke, violence in the streets, no policing, mega inflation coming, taxes through the roof, wages not up. Let's ignore all that and chuck a load of money at Ukraine and potentially escalate the war. That to me sounds like fuck.
The counter argument, okay, psychotic, but it's a vote winner, isn't it? This whole thing about national service, to bring back, because
it's a vote winner.
Yeah,
are you kidding?
No, I'm not, because of the greying of the. I wouldn't be kidding you on this. It's not. I've just got in my third coffee, because the people they're going for the grey votes. They are going for the quote unquote boomer generation who didn't have to do national service themselves, and therefore think this is a very good idea, and that's why they are going for it, because they're looking at it through rose-tinted spectacles. Wow. And to bring order back because of the woke generation that seems to be affecting Britain. Giles Brown here, 952-78-4000. Morning caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yeah, hi Giles, it's John in Meehas.
Morning, John.
I was really disappointed when you went on at 10, and I was so delighted when you came on points of view at 15:15. I wish they hadn't turned on. I'm so depressed.
Right, why are you depressed?
Well, doom and gloom, world war, and goodness knows what else. It just depressed me completely.
Well, that's what we aim to put a little sparkle in your day, and that's what's going through. But I mean, Jamie's making some points about the fact that he in his viewpoints, we are heading to a predestined world war, basically, or at least a European conflict.
Yeah, well, I'll say that. But if I thought it was in any way going to happen, I really would be depressed. I mean, obviously I'm not, but I was making a point that doom and gloom and whatever really upset my morning.
Oh, well, I mean,
okay.
Hey, more coffee needed, I think.
Yeah, I think I'll let you get on.
Thank you very much indeed. 952. If you see you've upset somebody's morning already with you, you should come on with a happy tale and listen to them. It's great news. It's great news if you are happen to be in the supply business and you want to fit out a whole new bunch of conscripts as opposed to be going in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, war is money, right? That's the whole point at the end of the day. No, I mean, I don't want to depress everybody. That's not my goal. I think, the news is, it doesn't inform. It doesn't, it certainly doesn't document, documentable fact. They will ignore the actual issues, manipulate the truth, and present a narrative to get a reaction from the people who read and watch that nonsense. But obviously, with regard to what I've been saying before, your point there with national service or national conscription will generate votes from older people,
yeah,
who tend to vote. I mean, again, this is the saddest thing ever, that someone is going to try and swing an election on the possibility of forcing young men to go to a war.
And women.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pointless waste of time as well. There's no need for that to happen. You should be sending young men to war, but we don't have any. As far as I'm aware, the British Army is falling apart as well. But mind you, it'll probably get a boost. They'll find the money from somewhere. They'll print it out of nowhere
from somewhere. Well, when are they going to get? We can't. You said you can't. We have got an NHS falling apart.
They can afford a bomb. They can afford, to build up an army for sure. But if it actually comes down to, doing something worthwhile with that cash, it will. The budget will be too tight.
Smoke and mirrors, though, isn't it? It's like, we seem to be doing something. On Thursday, they said they weren't going to be doing, but there was a question in the House about national service, and on Thursday they said this wasn't in contention, and then on Sunday, Sunak announces that one.
It's because they're all, they're a bunch of liars. But I mean, I was also noticing though that I couldn't believe actually that Sanchez has chucked another. He's pledged like $2 billion to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So Spain,
yeah,
is chucking. I mean, that's
but Spain always gets involved. It got involved in Afghanistan as well, didn't it? With Asnar.
This is the other thing as well, though. The idea that we're not actually already at war is a joke. Like, special advisors on the ground was a term they used for the American army that was already there for years before the Vietnam. And that went well. That was a great war. That was genuinely successful for the biggest army. They benefited massively from that war.
The military industrial complex, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, didn't kill millions of innocent people and pollute and destroy an entire country and sort of destabilize the entire world. I mean, that went brilliantly well.
Apart from that,
so let's do it again. Let's do it again. Maybe they'll get some more votes. That'd be fantastic. No?
But the counter argument goes that it's against Putin, and therefore the expansion of Russian expansionism there. And if you don't stop him there, if you don't stop him in Ukraine, I know you're laughing. He'll have a crack at Estonia.
Totally insane.
It's totally insane, right?
No, but I mean, like. Are we going to do the Russian expansion? Have you just said that to annoy me?
I have.
Okay, brilliant. You've done a good job.
Thank you.
I mean, that's just absurd. Like, the idea that he's trying to expand is just nonsense. And anyone who believes that that's what he's trying to do has been watching too much news and not listening to, the reality of what's happened over the last, since the end of the Cold War, right? But yeah, no, I think the fact that they can find money like that is just terrifying. But they can't find money for. I mean, my experience being back in the UK last year was terrifying. It was shocking. Like, the whole thing was just, like.
How was it terrifying? Shopping for you, Jay?
That's exactly how I would normally have approached any situation in the UK. But there's a really, really dark undercurrent. Like, it's just, people are genuinely frustrated. Young people are not. There's no real hope, I don't think. A lot of people are genuinely struggling. The cost of living is so ridiculous, and it's completely fixable. It's not It's not something that has to be that way. And so people are sort of bashing their head against the wall, trying to go to work to earn some money, but they don't see any benefit from it. They can't feed themselves. They can't feed their family. They can't turn the heating on. And the general atmosphere is really depressing. If you go down to the supermarket to go and get, a basic shop,
a turnip,
which should cost you 20 quid, it's 60 quid. And it's like, you're not getting any more from that. You're just getting the same stuff, probably poorer quality. And then you're going back to your cold, damp flat and having to get yourself ready for another day at work. And nothing is getting better. So,
in
terms of the
atmosphere, a 0-hour contract for an international chain of delivery things,
or doing your second job after your first job just to make ends meet. And I think, if I was going out to socialise, it wasn't nice. There was genuinely a bad atmosphere in the.
And yet, they're saying yesterday, James Cleverly, and that's a name and a half, and ever there was one, was saying yesterday to
ironic
on LBC. This, you see, he said, young people aren't mixing enough. This was a line I remember because I'm good like this. This was a line. He said, young people aren't mixing enough, and by conscripting them, you'll get people from all different social strata mixing together. Now that made me. I was holding a bacon sandwich at the time, yeah, and I dropped it in mirth at that point, because if you know your history, in the words of Bob Marley, if you know your history, then you would know where you're coming from. And also, if you know how the draft worked in Vietnam, it was never a mix of people. It was always, with the greatest respect, it was always the people in the lower class. That's why African Americans were in there. People from the south of the southern states of the US, the poor, were in there. And that's what's going to happen. And you can bet your bottom dollar, which is probably all you've got left, that if Sunak is so happy to have national service, he'll be putting his daughters first, of course, rather than calling an early election so he can get his kids in school in California when he gets booted out. Over to you.
No, 100%. The fact that any of these politicians can sit there with a straight face and start saying that, conscription and a war might be good for social integration. I think they're laughing at us, Giles. I think they know that we have no control. Unless voters basically just say en masse, we're not going to the polls. Literally, that's the only way, as far as I'm concerned, to actually get some kind of a response from these psychotic, paid-for puppets. The only way to do it is to say no. And genuinely, I think that's what we need to be doing on various fronts at the moment. Because interestingly enough, and I know the phone lines will go mental. There's a treaty. You understand? You're aware of this?
Enlighten me, Jamie.
I know to sound, to many people insane, but there's a treaty that they're trying to put through with the World Economic Forum that can now, as a result of that, of them calling the election on the 4th of July, they take. Parliament goes to sleep for a bit because they have to go and wave flags in the street and say stupid things about pensions and say they're going to save this and save that, and try and get someone to vote for them and then do absolutely nothing about it. But however, having said that, they're not going to debate that bill in Parliament, and so therefore it will just be rubber stamped and straight through. Now, for me, that's as important as what's happening in Ukraine, because this would allow non-elected, genuinely dubious and basically ineffective and probably malicious organisation to decide when there's a pandemic and when there's not a pandemic. So that, there's a lot of stuff happening, and it certainly isn't going to be discussed in the front pages of The Sun, The Guardian, The Times, The Daily Mail, or on Sky News or on BBC News. And I think a lot of people are starting to work this stuff out now. So people are really getting despondent with the fact that it doesn't make any difference whether it's red or blue. It makes no difference.
So at what point do people say enough, or are we all asleep?
Hopefully, I don't think it sounds patronising, and it's not supposed to sound patronising, because I would have said I was asleep up until 2020. I thought the system actually did have some kind of merit, and maybe one politician might come along and make a difference. But you can see clearly that isn't the case. And if you just look at if you take away the emotion, if you take away all the propaganda and the sort of messing of people's perceptions of what's actually happening, nothing really tends to change. Keir Starmer will come in and do exactly the same stuff as Rishi, but with a slight tint of red, and that's it. Nothing will change.
He's the Major was described as the grey man, and therefore Starmer is the grey man with a tint of red.
I mean, I hate Keir Starmer. I mean,
that's a strong word
everything.
To use.
But yeah, but the fundamental point is that people don't like. I don't think people like Keir Starmer. They did like someone like Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn, although whether you disagree with him or not, was an extremely popular politician. He came from nowhere.
He got beat by a landslide. How could it be popular? By Johnson, for goodness sake, Jamie.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what happened in the election, but that's also after a concerted campaign to basically deride, smear, and destroy anything he had a chance of doing. What I'm trying to say to you is that Keir Starmer fits in nicely with what the establishment wants him to do. And he'll play the game a little bit, but ultimately nothing will change. He'll do exactly the same stuff as Rishi. He'll do exactly the same stuff as any other guy coming through behind Rishi. And nothing's going to change. People like Corbyn could have changed something, could have done something quite radical. But that means he has to be attacked left, right, and centre from every centre, every possible angle.
Yeah, but radical. That's the thing. People don't like radical. People like safe and stable.
Well, people do like radical. It's just that the people who run the papers and fund the campaigns of the politicians, who will probably benefit from wars in Ukraine and or the rising energy prices and or the stock market rushing through the ceiling, or rising asset prices, they benefit from people like Keir Starmer, but nobody else does. I mean, like, if you say you're 25 and you've got like some, you've gone to university, you've got yourself a graduate position, you're sitting in some decent job you've managed to avoid conscription.
Have you considered a gap year in Kyiv? Yeah, indeed.
I honestly think if people had the option, they would just start leaving the country. I think that's what's actually going to happen.
Unfortunately, because we've now got the rules, we can't leave the country. I mean, the only place we can kind of go is probably, I don't know, Rwanda at the moment. That's about the only, because of the, here's the thing, because people cannot leave the UK because they haven't got 23,000 grand to come and live in the EU or Spain or whatever it is, because that's what you now need post-Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, I realise that they've made it as difficult as possible, but I still think that, I mean, certainly talking amongst my peer group, I think people are very, very sceptical about basically anything and everything. And I'm not talking about, you've got your wry smile on your face.
I think it might be trapped wind, you never know.
But the thing is that people are really starting to lose any kind of willingness to hope that there might be any change under these various puppeticians, as I like to call them.
Ooh, that's a good puppeticians. I use that. Thank you.
I'm going to steal that one off.
I know. I'm writing it down now. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, there's, people are starting to realise, and whether you're figuring out because of what happened with the debacle during the lockdown, whether it was to do with economic policy, whether it was to do with our prolonged poking of the Russian bear, whether it's to do, or what they're doing to the farmers, or whatever issue brings you to the table that makes you realise that what you're being asked to believe by mainstream media, press, politicians is completely contradictory to the reality of the situation that we're all dealing with on a daily basis. And as you say, if you turn off the news and have a wander around the streets down here, things are okay. But you turn the news on, or you listen to me talking about it, and suddenly it's extremely depressing.
Extremely depressing. To the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's clearly depressing if you're listening to you, Jamie. Self. Sorry.
Hi, Alf.
Well, I don't know where we go. At the end of the day, Jamie, people have a choice. They either vote or they don't vote. Irrespective of what is changing their opinions or affecting their opinions, or whether you like Starmer or whether you like Sunak or whether you detest them both, is totally irrelevant. There is a government in the UK that is governing the country in a certain way, and the only way to change it is to vote in an election. Simple as that. Doesn't matter about all your conspiracy theories and whether they're going to do any good or what's going to happen next week. Totally irrelevant. What is going to happen and how do we affect the change that's happening today? And if you don't care, which is the way you're coming across, Jamie, which I don't believe in you, I've known you for too long for you to say I don't care. It's called somebody somewhere has to make a decision about who's going to govern the UK in the near future. One of the things I've said to you for on many occasions, and it's interesting to know from a Scottish person, what is the effect going to be this time on the general election as to whether the SNP are going to give some ground that's going to assist and help change the British government. The second thing is, I didn't realise actually, is that on Blair's last victory in 2005, most of the Scottish seats had already gone to the SNP anyway, because it was part of the fallout from the Iraq War, it was part of the independence movement in Scotland. There's a whole pile of things that were happening. But that seems to be changing at the moment. And whether Labour win, 7 seats or 27 seats is up for grabs. Now, with the best will in the world, Jamie, with the best will in the world, set aside your nobody's going to make a difference, nobody's going to make a change. Somebody is going to make a difference, however small it is. Somebody is going to make a difference, and how do you want them to make that difference? We either keep the Tories or you change to an alternative government. If it's changed to an alternative government, the only one that's capable of winning at the moment, unfortunately for many, are the Labour Party. So, instead of all the other stuff, like poor old John in Meas, God blimey, I thought he was going to go into one.
No, he's just sent me a message saying, thank goodness Alf's got involved with the whole situation, because I think he was on the ledge there. I think he was just about 15 floors up and tottering.
Absolutely. But look, Jamie, I've known you for years. You're not like that. Yes, you have changed in the last couple of years because of circumstances in the world, and I accept that. But the reality is today, or whenever, on July the 4th, Independence Day, everybody keeps saying that. You go, it was only Independence Day for the Americans. I don't remember it being Independence Day for many other people, but there you go. We have to take the Americans as being our level now. But, the reality is, and the Tories are doing things now, whether we like it or not. For instance, they did the thing about conscription. Well, that's been in the air effectively since they said we've only got 75,000 armed forces in the UK. We haven't got the equipment. We haven't got this. We haven't got that. We've run down. The Tories have run down, and before that, Labour run down defence, and now all of a sudden we've got to build ourselves up to an army. I don't think to have a nuclear war with Russia or anybody else for that matter. I just think it's that threat potential. And so that's a pile of nonsense, but it's a distraction. Oh, we'll issue this. I've got a plan. I've got big ideas. We're really... How many people, and this is quite pertinent, how many people, when they introduced conscription into Ukraine, fled from Ukraine? And these are people that are fighting for their own country. How many people became conscientious objectors in the Second World War? How many people defied all that nonsense? How many people, I know people, I worked in an industry called British Telecom, at GPO as it was, which was called a reserved industry. You could choose whether you join the armed forces or not. And hundreds of telephone engineers chose not to join the armed services. But they were the people that were wanted to work in the signals and stuff like that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we'll have another new plan today. We'll do is we'll introduce the quadruple lock on pensions. What a pile of nonsense.
Alf, I agree with you that there is a choice with regard to conscription, but what I'm trying to point out, and I think obviously we have known each other for a while, all I'm trying to point out is this. The main issues, the really clear issues that are affecting day-to-day living, general prospects for change and general prospects for freedom, general prospects for, having a choice about how you're going to live your life. These issues are not being discussed in the election. They're going to talk about pensions. okay, cool. Like, older people vote. That's a clear vote winner. But they're not going to fundamentally tackle the things that have happened over the last 4 years that have fundamentally changed, the way that Europeans live, Americans live, anybody in the Western world is living these days. And that's the reason why I hope that people just literally en masse say, until someone actually starts to deal with these problems, we're not voting for you. We're not going to get involved.
Yeah, but that's not reality.
Well, you never know.
You have to live in your world of what could happen, and then compare it to what will happen.
Well, okay, cool, that's true. But I genuinely think there's a step change. Look, as I said to you before, like, look at me, like, just as an example. I would never have said these things 4 years ago. Never have said these things. I would have been sceptical about Keir Starmer. I would have been sceptical about Rishi Sunak. I would have laughed and joked about them. I would have been, making jokes about, the SNP. What we're dealing with now, though, is a political, whether you're yellow, blue, red, a political choice that has absolutely no reflection of what people genuinely think and feel, I think, in the country right now. People they're not interested in what these people are saying because they know that they're not going to change anything.
Yeah, but Jamie, that's because people choose their own futures. People join political parties for a reason, their own reason. Doesn't matter what you say or others. Yes, of course you can. I've changed my opinion, not over the last 4 years. I've changed my opinion over the last 50 years, ever since I've been a member of the Labour Party. The number of occasions when, Corbyn came in with new ideas. Corbyn came in with no new ideas. Read Michael Foot's Labour Party manifesto to the, whatever it was, 1987 general election. It was called... So he had no new ideas, and he had no idea about how to implement them so that people would understand that they're not going to have to pay more taxes. Labour didn't get a whacking great big label stuck on it, tax and spend, for no reason. It's years and years and years of the Tories saying Labour are just about tax and spend. Look at what they're saying now. Labour have got no ideas. Labour have got no plan. What a pile of poop. But they're still going to get away with it with the British public because they're the ones who are going to go and vote. And it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what people like you and me try to change and try to say, unless people get involved. I've been a Labour Party member since I was 23, I think it was, and I got involved because of my trade union activity, not because I was political. And you see the difference between people like me and people who came into the party who want to be career politicians, people who come into the party because of their family backgrounds. So it takes all sorts to make up political. And I ain't talking just about Labour. This is all political parties. It takes piles of different people to come into that. But they all try, with the best will in the world, they all try to make a difference in the world. The problem is that not enough people engage in how we do. The Labour Party is I think, is the biggest political party in the world. And yet we sit there and go, but they've got no ideas, and they go in the same direction, and then this falls out and that falls out, and nothing ever changes. And that's not true. It does change. If nothing ever changed, then Corbyn would still be the leader of the Labour
Just
Party.
want to look at a few of the emails coming in here and the WhatsApps coming in. +34. Don't stay there if you want, Alf. Just going to say what we've got at the moment. So, good morning, Giles. I agree with the phone-in listener. The news is depressing. So, to put things in perspective, there's been trouble and strife in the UK and around the world forever and ever. Don't waste time thinking about it. News, whether there's nothing we can do about it. When you get to my age, 72, time is the most valued commodity. Be selfish. Don't waste time worrying about things. We can't do anything about it. That's from Chris. Good morning to you. Also, good morning to this one. I think the government is being given too much clout by your guests. Have family who work at the heart of government, civil servants, and it's constantly pantomime horse time. Within it, the front end doesn't know what the back end is doing. It was ever thus, as my dad worked from there in the 60s too. It's the fact we have constant news updates and social media that the ability of conspiracy theories is to take off off so much more than it ever used to. And finally, Paul says it feels like we're living in a Tory advent calendar of ineptitude. There's an advent calendar. The Tory advent calendar of ineptitude. Every day you open up a window and see what CCHQ have cocked up today. National Service announcement is an attempt to woo former Tory voters back from Reform UK. Same for the pension announcement. Bloomberg have published a leaked internal memo, a report from the Tories, fearing a loss of 100 due to an excess of Tory voters. So those are some of the bits and pieces coming in. I said the word Bloomberg there. Jamie, you didn't cross yourself.
Yeah.
Put the branding iron on, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's what we've got coming in through the through the wires. If you want to get involved with today's show, we've only got 10 minutes left. Believe it or not, it's a shortened version today. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. Just a quick one here, because Rachel Reeves is speaking, saying Labour's going to be pro-worker and pro-business, and the Tories have been insulting the intelligence of the public. Well, you said, Jamie, that they were insulting the intelligence of the public.
Yeah,
because that, in fact, you said they're having a laugh because they don't believe that they're going to do anything about it.
No, I don't think. I know what Alf's saying. I understand what he's saying, but I think that ultimately, as you say, like the establishment in the civil service are there. They never really change, and I think whether it's Rishi or it won't be. I'm assuming Keir will probably have a win here, unless there is a genuine revolt at the polls. And I hope that these parties that are coming in will split things up and disrupt things, because ultimately, again, I think when there's a chance for people to vote in an impactful way, they can't. I don't think they're going to be able to control the attitude of the public yet at the moment. I think so many people are so angry.
History proves that they have. This is always the. You only have to go back a few years. It was called UKIP. You put it today, it's Reform, but then it was UKIP. The right-wing Tories, they're not right-wing Tories, by the way. They're right of the Tory party. Most of them are not Tory party members, never have been and never would be. They're far to the right of that. But they had such an influence on the Tories. We had the Tories then become the government under Cameron, and the first thing he does is give these lunatics the opportunity to vote to leave Europe. I tell you, I was listening to Michael Heseltine the other day, and this is a guy who was, Thatcher's right-hand man, saying we were so wrong to leave the EU, and the first thing that any new government should do is consider rejoining the EU. Now, this isn't a guy who's bonkers. This isn't a guy who's full of conspiracy theories. This is a guy who's been in politics longer than me. What's he been getting on for 90? It doesn't mean he's lost his marbles. This guy knows what he's talking about. Why is it the British public don't understand that? And all this crap about red wall seats and blue wall seats, and that's just that's a media distraction because they've got nothing better to write about. It's called. When are the media, never mind about the politicians, when are the media going to start talking about the real issues that affect? When are the media going to start really saying you should participate in the vote, you should join a political party and change the political parties? You only change things. I was brought up in an era that said, if you're in the greenhouse, you can stay there and you can change the plants in the greenhouse. If you leave the greenhouse, the plants will probably die, but you won't have any say in what replaces them. So that's why I've never, ever left the Labour Party. And there's been occasions when, I had my doubts about staying there. All my family were members of the Labour Party, and all of them, one by one, have left the Labour Party.
Got some more
reasons.
Got some more calls coming in, Alf. So with the greatest of whatever, good to have you with us this morning. We're going to go live to the line. So if that's okay,
I will talk to you again then.
You will indeed. Thanks very much. Thanks so much.
See you, Jamie.
Morning, calling live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. My name's Paul.
Morning, Paul.
I was listening to Jamie, who seems to be, making some very good points. And it's like I said to you before, you know, all governments are mafias. Where do you think the mafia got the idea for the mafia from?
Yeah, okay. Well,
and then look how corrupt. All the politicians, look how corrupt they all are. I was trying to think of the name of I read about the guy years ago who was the Minister for Transport who built the flyovers and everything.
Oh, the guy in the 60s. Yes, I know the one you mean.
I do know, but anyway. He
got rid of all the railways.
You can... No, it wasn't Beecham.
Oh, right, okay.
He was a friend of his.
Oh, right.
Or he was in cohorts with him. You know, the corruption in... You know, people go on about third world banana republics. Well, they get their ideas from Britain because our governments have been so corrupt for so many years. I mean... when you think of like the Labour Party, which is totally corrupt, and the Conservative Party, and the Liberals, well, look at Jeremy Thorpe, for instance, right?
Right, blimey, that's going back a bit, 50 years.
Harold Wilson was a traitor. He was giving all our secrets to the Russians or to the communists. I saw James Callaghan when I lived in Sussex when I was a teenager. Oh, he's a good socialist. He's the Labour, you know, he's the Prime Minister and everything, right? Now, you'd think a good Labour man, good for the people, good for the working classes. He drives up the country lane, and I looked with my brothers, and I go, oh, look at that brand new Rolls Royce. And he came past and waved at us. Of course, we thought he was an idiot, but look at it. A Rolls Royce. He lived in a huge country.
Champagne socialist, we could say there, couldn't you then, Paul?
I wasn't, no, because they're worse than that. They're just ripping everybody off. When are the British people... But it's the whole world's the same. I mean, it's not just the British. But when that scam COVID came along, we're going to inject it. I mean, that showed you how stupid people are because they all fell for it. And look at the state after injecting everybody with like poison. How many people have died? Now people are being, they're suing the government for what they've done. The amount of people that have died, the amount of people that have got terrible medical problems, right? But ever since that came along, look at the state of the economy in Britain and really the whole world, because now we're all paying for it.
Paul, thank you very much for your call. I'm going to have to go to an ad break.
I haven't finished yet.
Haven't you? All right, go off again.
No, and then also, this always people going, conspiracy theories. Well, I said it to you before. The CIA came up with that one because it's to dispel any argument against what they're doing. And talking of corrupt politicians, what about President Johnson? I mean, he was actually a mafia don. He prolonged that war.
You're talking about Lyndon B rather than Boris, yeah?
Sorry?
Okay, yeah. I'm going to have to cut you because I've got to put a break in and we go back because we had a very short show today.
No, I haven't finished.
I'm very sorry, but I've got to finish because otherwise you're going to crash Stephen Ritson. And do you want to have an enraged Stephen Ritson following you around? And there he was, as my Welsh grandmother would say, and there he was, gone.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. Into the last... it's been a short show today, so about to run out of time. My thanks to Jamie Hamilton-Milan for joining us this morning. Jamie, thanks for that.
My pleasure.
I think we'll be using this as a Christmas goodwill special, I think, basically.
Yeah, sorry to be so depressing, but there are reasons to be hopeful, I guess, but they're just not going to be found on the front pages of the newspapers.
Thanks very much for your time today. It's been a very short... apologies for making it a short viewpoint, but thanks for your input. This show, I think, will be repeated at 7 o'clock. But keep it locked and loaded. There's lots of stuff coming up through the day today, including Selena McKenzie and Hannah Murray, Hara Brighton. But Stephen Ritson joins us next up with Europe Today. And then I'm back tomorrow with Let's Talk After Dave with Daybreak. Thanks very much for the calls in today. Sorry it was such a show, but what we're going to do as the summer begins and we run into more infrastructure problems. But thanks for the calls in, and I'll see you tomorrow. Stephen Ritson up next.
views expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.